Welcome to National Eyes. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. Imagine the music of our economy, an intricate symphony with every note and rhythm shaped by the flow of goods, services, and ideas across borders. Its tempo set by global trade, suddenly interrupted as if the conductor's baton froze midair, leaving businesses and workers in suspense. On November 21, 2025, the Supreme Court struck down the sweeping reciprocal tariffs imposed by former President Trump, calling them an unconstitutional overreach of executive power. The decision was historic, marking the end of a contentious era in U.S. trade policy. The decision sent shockwaves from Washington to Shanghai and London, instantly impacting the price of goods, small businesses, and America's global relationships. Markets reacted within minutes, and headlines around the world captured the moment. At its core, this ruling is about the limits of presidential authority, especially the power to tax, which the Constitution reserves for Congress. It's a reminder that even the most powerful office in the land is bound by the nation's founding document. The tariffs, enacted under a national emergency, sparked a dramatic legal battle over the separation of powers. Lawyers, lawmakers, and citizens debated the true reach of executive action. The outcome is a clear message: even in extraordinary times, the president cannot unilaterally wield powers meant for Congress. The checks and balances at the heart of our democracy held firm. This is more than a legal footnote. It's a pivotal moment for American democracy and the future of trade. The ruling will shape how future presidents approach economic crises and international disputes. Tonight, we'll unpack how this decision came to be, its journey through the courts, and its sweeping consequences. From billions in refunds to political shockwaves, the effects are just beginning to unfold. This story touches every corner of the nation, from rural farms to city storefronts, and from factory floors to family dinner tables. It's about the rules that govern us, the invisible framework that shapes our daily lives and economic opportunities, the principles that guide us, ensuring that no one, no matter how powerful, stands above the law, and the ongoing debate over government's role in our lives, a conversation that echoes in Congress, courtrooms, and communities nationwide. The music of our economy is changing, and understanding why matters to us all as we navigate this new chapter together. To truly grasp the impact of the court's ruling, let's rewind to a pivotal moment in recent history, April 2025. This was a month that would mark a dramatic turning point in America's approach to global trade, setting off a chain reaction that would ripple through economies worldwide. Former President Trump, in a highly publicized address he called Liberation Day, announced a sweeping new trade policy. He imposed a flat 10% reciprocal tariff on most imports, with some duties on select goods soaring as high as 50%. The announcement was met with both applause and alarm, as it signaled a sharp break from decades of U.S. trade policy. Citing the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, Trump argued that he had the authority to counter what he described as unusual and extraordinary threats to the U.S. economy. He claimed that foreign trade practices were undermining American prosperity and security, and that bold action was needed. This sweeping interpretation transformed a law originally intended for targeted sanctions against hostile nations into a powerful tool for reshaping the entire landscape of global trade. Suddenly, the rules of international commerce were upended, and uncertainty spread across markets. The tariffs hit American businesses hard, raising costs for manufacturers, retailers, and consumers alike. Companies scrambled to adjust supply chains, while shoppers faced higher prices at the checkout. The effects rippled from factory floors to family budgets. Trump's gamble was clear. He believed that inflicting economic pain abroad would force other countries to lower their own trade barriers, ultimately benefiting American workers and industries. It was a high-stakes bet with global consequences, but many economists warned that these tariffs functioned as a tax on Americans, not on foreign competitors. They cautioned that the costs would be passed on to U.S. consumers and businesses, potentially slowing economic growth and fueling inflation. Allies threatened swift retaliation, and the world braced for a full-blown trade war. Tensions mounted at international summits, and global markets reacted with volatility and unease. The administration stood firm, making tariffs the centerpiece of its America First agenda. Officials insisted the pain was temporary, and that the long-term gains would outweigh the immediate costs. But the legality of this bold move was quickly challenged in court, as critics argued the president had overstepped his authority and set a dangerous precedent. The stage was set for a constitutional showdown, one that would test the limits of presidential power and redefine America's role in the global economy. The legal fight began not in Congress but with small business owners hit hardest by the tariffs. From North Carolina furniture importers to Michigan parts suppliers, a coalition formed, joined by 12 state governments, arguing the president had overstepped. Their case, i.e. EPA, was never meant to let a president impose broad tariffs as economic policy. The power to tax, they argued, belongs to Congress alone. Allowing unilateral tariffs would shatter the balance of power between branches. Their lawsuit became a test of the judiciary's role as constitutional referee. The battle was on small businesses and states versus the executive branch. The legal battle started in the U.S. Court of International Trade, which ruled the tariffs exceeded presidential authority under IEPA. The government appealed, and the Federal Circuit Court affirmed only Congress can impose such sweeping taxes. The majority opinion stressed that EPA was designed for targeted sanctions, not broad economic overhauls. Dissenting judges argued for more deference to the president in economic emergencies. With two courts against the tariffs, the Supreme Court fast-tracked the case, recognizing its national importance. Oral arguments were heard on November 5, 2025. The justices faced a fundamental question: can a president citing emergency powers unilaterally reshape the U.S. economy? Billions in commerce and a core constitutional principle hung in the balance. The nation waited as the highest court prepared its verdict. The stakes, the future of executive power and the structure of American government. The final decision would reverberate far beyond the courtroom. On November 21, 2025, the suspense ended. In a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court struck down Trump's tariffs as an illegal overreach of executive authority. Chief Justice Roberts, writing for the majority, invoked the major questions doctrine. Sweeping economic changes require clear congressional approval. The court ruled, Congress, not the president, controls the power to tax. Dissenters warned this limits the president's ability to respond to economic threats, but the majority's view now stands as law. The ruling voided the tariffs immediately, setting a historic precedent for the limits of presidential power. The Supreme Court's decision triggered immediate, massive financial consequences. The now illegal tariffs, collected since April, must be refunded, over $100 billion according to the Treasury Department. This is one of the largest court-ordered government refunds in U.S. history. The process of repaying thousands of businesses will be a monumental administrative task. Markets responded with optimism. Stocks surged, and the dollar dipped as trade barriers fell. The ruling was a win for corporate America and global commerce, removing a major source of economic friction. However, the decision applies only to these specific tariffs under IEPA. Other tariffs remain in place. The landscape of U.S. trade policy is still complex, with protectionist measures shaping global commerce. For now, the economic reckoning has begun, but the full impact will unfold over time. Businesses and consumers alike are watching for relief at the cash register. The story of America's trade future is still being written. The Supreme Court's ruling is more than a financial event. It's a major check on presidential power, sending shockwaves through the nation's political and economic systems. For years, presidents have used emergency declarations to bypass Congress, often justifying swift action in the name of national security or economic stability. This decision draws a clear line. The president cannot unilaterally impose taxes, reinforcing the Constitution's separation of powers and the essential role of Congress in fiscal matters. The precedent will shape future administrations and limit executive overreach in economic policy, ensuring that no single branch can dominate the nation's financial direction. The ruling also disrupts trade deals negotiated under the threat of tariffs, forcing the U.S. to renegotiate with key partners and potentially altering the global economic landscape. Foreign governments are reassessing their positions, and the Biden administration must navigate a new diplomatic landscape, balancing domestic priorities with international expectations. For Americans, the effects will be felt gradually. Businesses may see relief from unpredictable tariffs, and consumers could benefit from lower prices and increased market stability. Politically, the decision has reignited debate over the balance of power, with lawmakers and citizens alike questioning the limits of executive authority. Trump condemned the ruling, warning of foreign exploitation, while many in Congress welcomed the defense of their authority and the restoration of legislative oversight. The conversation about the proper role of government is far from over, as Americans grapple with questions of accountability, transparency, and the future of executive power. This moment will echo in policy debates for years to come. influencing how future leaders approach both domestic and international challenges. The balance of power has been recalibrated, marking a turning point in the ongoing story of American democracy. Legal experts say the ruling is a setback for using EPA as a trade weapon, but it doesn't end the executive's influence on trade. The case exposed a split among conservatives, deference to executive power versus strict adherence to congressional authority. The major questions doctrine emerged as the decisive principle. Big changes need clear legislative approval. Analysts agree. This case is less about tariffs and more about the architecture of American government. The president's crisis powers are real, but not limitless. Transforming the nation's economic policy requires Congress's explicit consent. The debate over trade and executive power will continue, but the constitutional guardrails are now clearer. The Supreme Court's decision is a testament to the resilience of American democracy. In a time of political and economic strain, the judiciary upheld the separation of powers. The ruling affirms that the power of the purse remains with Congress, not the president. This was a stress test for our system, and it held. From small businesses to state governments, the process showed our institutions at work. The outcome is a victory for constitutional governance, not any one party. The debate over executive power and congressional authority will continue, shaping our future. In the end, the strength of our republic depends on all of us staying engaged and informed.